I am not a number. I am a person.
This is only the beginning. We have many ways and means, but we don't wish to damage you permanently.
I am not a number. I am a free man.
I am not a number. I am a free man.
These defiant words echo through a surreal coastal village as a man in a blazer races across the beach, pursued by an ominous white balloon. This striking image from The Prisoner instantly communicates the show's central conflict: the individual versus society, freedom versus control. In 1967, when television was defined by straightforward narratives and familiar genres, this scene represented something revolutionary. When The Prisoner debuted on British television, it entered a landscape dominated by conventional spy thrillers and crime dramas. The cultural context was fascinating. Cold War tensions remained high, but the psychedelic counterculture was rising. Traditional values were being questioned, and paranoia about government control permeated society. Into this environment stepped Patrick McGoohan with a show that would challenge every convention of television storytelling. Unlike most productions of the era, The Prisoner wasn't created by a network committee. It emerged from McGoohan's singular vision after he walked away from the highly successful Danger Man, known as Secret Agent in America. With ITV's backing, McGoohan secured an unusually high budget, approximately £75,000 per episode, and unprecedented creative control. This investment in a creator-driven vision was virtually unheard of in 1960s television. The series was conceived as a limited run of 17 episodes, another departure from the open-ended formulas typical of successful shows. McGoohan wasn't interested in creating a franchise. He wanted to tell a complete story with a deliberate beginning, middle, and end. This approach to television as a finite artistic statement rather than an ongoing commercial product was decades ahead of its time. What The Prisoner offered wasn't just another spy thriller, but a profound meditation on identity, authority, and freedom in modern society. Through its surreal village setting and numbered inhabitants, the show posed questions that remain startlingly relevant today. In a world of increasing surveillance, how do we maintain our individual humanity? When everyone accepts conformity, what is the cost of saying no? The most striking visual in The Prisoner is undoubtedly Rover, a simple weather balloon transformed into television's most memorable antagonist. When this white sphere emerges from the sea, hovering ominously before engulfing an escaping prisoner, it demonstrates how the series achieved profound impact through simplicity. Rover represents authority in its most elemental form, faceless, relentless, and utterly inhuman, created not through expensive effects, but creative vision. This visual economy exemplifies how The Prisoner revolutionized television aesthetics. McGoohan transformed the picturesque Welsh village of Portmeirion into The Village, a candy-colored prison where Mediterranean architecture creates a dreamlike unreality. The location itself becomes a character, its cheerful facade masking sinister purpose. Unlike the gritty urban settings dominating spy dramas of the era, the village exists outside time and place, simultaneously idyllic and nightmarish. Cinematically, the series employed techniques rarely seen on television. Director Don Chaffee brought film sensibilities to the small screen using extreme wide shots to emphasize Number 6's isolation, then shifting to disorienting close-ups during interrogation scenes. In Free for All, spinning Dutch angles and fragmented editing create a hallucinatory election sequence that visually represents mental manipulation, techniques that would become standard in psychological thrillers decades later. The show's production design merits special attention. From the penny-farthing bicycle logo, suggesting progress perpetually cycling back on itself, to the iconic blazers and numbered badges, every visual element reinforces central themes. Even the architecture was carefully chosen. The village's ornate buildings with their open plazas provide nowhere to hide, physically manifesting surveillance culture. The interiors utilize mod furniture and pop art aesthetics, creating spaces that feel simultaneously contemporary and timeless. Production challenges were substantial. McGoohan's multiple roles as creator, star, writer, and occasional director meant punishing schedules. More significantly, the show's abstract concepts frequently confused ITV executives, who expected something closer to McGoohan's previous spy series. The tension between commercial expectations and artistic vision created behind-the-scenes conflicts that mirrored the show's themes of individual expression versus institutional control. Sound design provided another innovation. The village's cheerful public announcements contrast with Wilfred Joseph's discordant score to create constant aural dissonance. The opening theme begins with traditional orchestration before erupting into thunderous percussion, musically representing the collision between establishment structures and chaotic individualism. Perhaps most groundbreaking was McGoohan's willingness to experiment with format. The General tackled education technology with proto-cyberpunk themes. A Change of Mind explored community conformity through social ostracism. The Schizoid Man used doubling to question identity itself. Each episode maintained visual and thematic continuity while exploring different facets of institutional control, effectively creating an anthology within a serial narrative decades before this approach became fashionable. The most technically ambitious episode, Living in Harmony, reimagined the village as an Old West town, a complete genre shift demonstrating the show's conceptual flexibility. This episode was infamously banned from American broadcast, officially for drug references, but widely believed to be for its anti-war messaging, demonstrating how the show's politics could provoke real-world censorship. Through these technical and artistic choices, The Prisoner transformed television from passive entertainment into active intellectual engagement. It demanded viewers pay attention, ask questions, and participate in constructing meaning, treating its audience not as consumers, but as thinking citizens. Patrick McGoohan's portrayal of Number 6 defines The Prisoner. His performance combines icy determination with barely contained rage, creating a character whose resistance feels visceral and necessary. McGoohan plays 6 with remarkable restraint, a man who understands that emotional outbursts would only please his captors. When he delivers the famous "I am not a number" declaration, its power comes not from shouting, but from quiet, seething dignity. What makes his performance even more impressive is that McGoohan was simultaneously serving as the show's creative force behind the camera. The rotating cast of Number 2s provides fascinating counterpoint to McGoohan's consistency. Leo McKern delivered the most memorable interpretation, appearing in 3 episodes, including the series finale. His Number 2 begins as a confident adversary, but evolves dramatically. In Once Upon a Time, McKern engages 6 in Degree Absolute, a psychological regression therapy that becomes a brutal battle of wills. His performance transforms from bureaucratic certainty to desperation as he realizes 6 cannot be broken through conventional means. When he returns in Fallout, McKern's character has shattered and reformed as a revolutionary, perhaps the show's most complex character evolution. Angelo Muscat's wordless performance as the butler deserves special mention. Standing barely 5 feet tall and never speaking a single line, Muscat nevertheless creates an enigmatic presence. His butler serves each Number 2 with identical efficiency, suggesting absolute subservience. Yet in the finale, he appears alongside Number 6 in the halls of power, hinting that the most overlooked figures may observe the most. His silent witnessing becomes one of the show's most unsettling elements. Among the series' most impactful sequences is the election in Free for All, where 6 is manipulated into running for the position of Number 2. What begins as apparent democracy gradually transforms into a surreal nightmare of political theater. The episode brilliantly deconstructs democratic processes as performance, suggesting that participation in corrupt systems only legitimizes them. When Six finally wins but is drugged into spouting party rhetoric, McGoohan creates a devastating portrait of how rebellion is co-opted by institutional power. Equally powerful is Hammer into Anvil, where Six methodically convinces a paranoid number 2 that he is a village inspector. After witnessing a woman's suicide following interrogation, Six turns the village's surveillance against itself. The episode demonstrates how control systems create paranoia, even among those who operate them. McGoohan's cold calculation shows a darker side of the character, suggesting that effective resistance might require adopting an opponent's methods. The controversial finale, Fallout, abandons conventional narrative entirely. Its allegorical trial sequences, musical interludes, and masked delegates create a deliberately disorienting climax. McKern's return as a now revolutionary number 2 and the revelation that number 1 is another version of Six himself challenged all audience expectations of resolution. Instead of answers, Fallout expands its questions to cosmic proportions, suggesting that our external prisons reflect our internal contradictions. Through these performances and narrative choices, The Prisoner explores how identity persists under pressure, questioning whether complete individual freedom is possible or even desirable. By refusing easy answers, the show transformed television from passive entertainment into active philosophical inquiry. When The Prisoner first aired in 1967, audiences were bewildered, expecting another straightforward spy series like McGoohan's Danger Man. Viewers instead encountered a philosophical labyrinth that defied categorization. The Daily Express reported that McGoohan was besieged by viewers demanding to know what the heck is going on, while critics struggled to evaluate something so far outside television's conventional boundaries. The abstract finale, Fallout, provoked particularly strong reactions. When it aired in February 1968, ITV's switchboards were reportedly jammed with callers demanding explanations. The episode's surreal trial sequences, musical interludes, and masked delegates left audiences frustrated. McGoohan later recalled, "I was quite prepared for that reaction. People wanted answers, but I wasn't going to give them any." This defiance of audience expectations was virtually unprecedented in commercial television. Yet, what began as confusion gradually transformed into fascination. By the mid-1970s, university film societies were screening The Prisoner as a complete work. Academic papers examined its political metaphors and psychological dimensions. The show evolved in critical estimation from a quirky spy series to a pioneering work of television art that demanded multiple viewings. This evolution reveals how fundamentally ahead of its time The Prisoner was. Its narrative complexity, serialized storytelling, and ambiguous conclusion-anticipated developments in television that wouldn't become mainstream for decades. McGoohan was creating prestige television before the term existed, approaching the medium with cinematic and literary ambition. Several fascinating details reward close viewing. The chess imagery throughout the series, particularly in Checkmate, reflects McGoohan's view of Cold War politics as a strategic game with disposable pieces. Rover's evolution is notable. Originally conceived as a mechanical device, budget constraints led to the weather balloon solution that became iconic. McGoohan also incorporated autobiographical elements. His own experience with fame and industry pressure after Danger Man informed Number 6's resistance to being categorized and controlled. The show's episode order remains contested to this day. The production sequence differed from broadcast order, creating timeline inconsistencies that some viewers interpret as deliberately disorienting, while others see as evidence of network interference. This ambiguity has spawned decades of fan theories, turning the show's very structure into an extension of its themes. The Prisoner also evolved in how it was consumed. Initially broadcast weekly, it gained new life through home video, allowing viewers to analyze it as a complete text. Each new format, from VHS to DVD to streaming, has introduced the series to new generations, each finding contemporary relevance in its themes. What started as a weekly broadcast curiosity has become one of television's most analyzed texts. Perhaps most remarkably, what seemed impenetrably abstract in 1968 now appears prophetic in its warnings about surveillance, data collection, and manufactured consent. As technology advances, The Prisoner feels increasingly relevant rather than dated. The village's cheerful facade masking total surveillance resonates powerfully in an era of social media and digital tracking. As one retrospective review noted, "We are all living in the village now." This evolution from cult curiosity to recognized classic reflects not just changing tastes, but our growing awareness of the very systems of technological control that McGoohan warned against. A show once dismissed as too abstract and philosophical now seems disturbingly concrete. Less allegory than prediction. Be Seeing You, the village's seemingly friendly farewell, takes on an ominous new meaning in our era of constant digital surveillance. More than 50 years after The Prisoner concluded its initial run, its exploration of technology, surveillance, and individual freedom feels less like science fiction and more like documentary. The series that once seemed avant-garde in its paranoia now appears prescient. The show's influence on subsequent television is profound. Without The Prisoner, we might never have seen the narrative complexity of Twin Peaks, the philosophical depth of Battlestar Galactica, or the reality-questioning premises of Westworld and Mr. Robot. J.J. Abrams openly acknowledged The Prisoner as a key influence on Lost, with its mysterious island, shadowy organization, and numbered characters. Even Black Mirror owes a debt to McGoohan's series, particularly in episodes exploring social conformity and technological control. Beyond direct influences, The Prisoner pioneered the concept of the limited series with a predefined narrative arc, now standard practice in prestige television. Its creator-driven vision established a model for auteur television decades before HBO and streaming platforms made it commonplace. McGoohan effectively invented the showrunner role as we understand it today, overseeing every aspect of production to maintain a unified creative vision. The village itself has become shorthand for any system that enforces conformity through surveillance and social pressure. When Edward Snowden revealed the extent of NSA monitoring in 2013, many commentators referenced The Prisoner as a cultural touchstone to understand these revelations. The series' warnings about data collection feel especially relevant in an age where our devices track our movements, preferences, and communications, often with our willing participation. The show's visual language has permeated popular culture. Rover has appeared in episodes of The Simpsons and Futurama. The village's penny farthing bicycle logo has been repurposed countless times. Even the iconic opening sequence, with its thunderclap and resignation scene, has been parodied and referenced across media. These visual callbacks speak to the show's lasting impact on our collective imagination. In an era of increasing political polarization, The Prisoner offers a perspective that transcends traditional divisions. Its critique of authoritarian control appeals to libertarian and conservative viewers, while its skepticism toward corporate power and consumption-based identity resonates with progressive audiences. McGoohan created a politically ambiguous text that challenges viewers across the spectrum to examine their relationship to authority. What makes The Prisoner especially valuable today is its refusal to provide easy answers. Unlike many dystopian narratives that offer clear villains and heroic resistance, McGoohan's series suggests that our prisons are partly self-created. The revelation that Number 6 might be his own jailer, that Number 1 wears his face, implies that true freedom requires confronting our own contradictions and complicities. As we navigate an increasingly surveilled and algorithm-driven world, The Prisoner stands as both warning and inspiration, a reminder that questioning the systems around us is not just political, but deeply personal. Its final message isn't despair, but challenge. To remain vigilant, to resist categorization, to insist on our humanity in the face of systems that would reduce us to data points. So, as we conclude this exploration of McGoohan's masterpiece, perhaps the most appropriate question is, in your daily life, where is your village? What unseen systems shape your choices, monitor your movements, influence your thoughts? And what would it mean, in the fullest sense, to be a free person rather than a number? If these questions intrigue you, I invite you to watch or rewatch The Prisoner, not as a relic of 1960s television, but as a mirror to our present and possible future.